What if free will is an illusion? Imagine that you are standing in a coffee shop. You look at the menu, coffee or tea. You think about it for a moment. You remember that you had coffee yesterday. You tell yourself that tea might be healthier. Then you notice that the person in front of you ordered a cappuccino, and suddenly you want one too. You choose coffee. It feels like a tiny act of freedom. Nobody forced you. Nobody held a gun to your head. You considered the options, made a decision, and acted on it. But now imagine something unsettling. What if you never could have chosen tea? Not because someone stopped you, not because you were physically incapable of ordering tea, but because everything that happened inside your mind, your memories, desires, fears, habits, personality, brain activity, and even the exact thoughts you had while looking at the menu, inevitably produced the decision to order coffee. You experienced yourself as choosing, but perhaps the choice was already determined before you became consciously aware of it. This idea sounds strange at first, maybe even depressing. After all, what could be more personal than a decision? Your relationships, your mistakes, your ambitions, your promises, your regrets, the person you become. We usually assume that somewhere inside all of this is a little author called me, sitting behind the eyes and making choices. But what if there is no such author? What if consciousness is not the commander of the brain, but the narrator of a process that is already happening? And if free will is an illusion, what happens to responsibility? What happens to guilt? What happens to pride? What happens to the idea that you could have become a completely different person? The question is much bigger than whether humans can choose coffee or tea. It asks something more uncomfortable. Are you actually the author of your life, or are you watching a story unfold and experiencing it as your own? The strange feeling of being the one who decides. Most of us never stop to think about free will. We simply use it. You wake up and decide whether to get out of bed. You decide what to eat. You decide whether to answer a message. You decide whether to apologize. You decide what career to pursue. You decide who to trust. The feeling is so ordinary that questioning it seems almost absurd. Of course, I make choices. Who else would be making them? But notice something about the experience of choosing. You become aware of a decision, but you do not normally experience the machinery that produced it. Suppose you are offered two desserts, chocolate cake and apple pie. You think about them. You compare them. You remember that the cake was good last time. You tell yourself that you should probably choose the apple pie. Then you suddenly feel that you want the cake. Where did that desire come from? You did not consciously manufacture it. You did not sit down and say, now I shall create within myself a desire for chocolate cake. The desire simply appeared. Then another thought appeared. Then another. Eventually, an action happened. From the inside, it feels like you caused the action. But perhaps there is another way to describe what happened. Your brain processed sensory information. It accessed memories. It evaluated rewards. It reacted to hunger. It incorporated habits and expectations. It generated competing impulses. One process became stronger than the others. Your body moved, and consciousness experienced the result as I chose. This does not prove that free will is an illusion, but it reveals a strange problem. Much of what happens inside your mind is not consciously chosen. Your thoughts appear, your emotions appear, your preferences appear, your impulses appear. Even the next thought you will have is something you cannot fully predict. Try an experiment. Do not think about an elephant. Now watch what happens. You immediately thought about an elephant. You did not choose to have that image appear. In fact, you were explicitly instructed not to think about it. Your mind produced something you did not command. So perhaps the question is not, do I control my thoughts? Perhaps it is, how much of the thing we call me is actually under my control? The universe before you were born. To understand the deeper problem, imagine rewinding the universe. Suppose you could reverse time. You return to yesterday, then the day before, then last year. You keep going backward until you reach the moment before you were born. Now imagine that you could rewind everything perfectly. Every atom returns to exactly the same position. Every particle has exactly the same state. Every brain contains exactly the same electrical and chemical activity. Every event happens exactly as it did the first time. Then you press play. What happens? Would history unfold differently? Would you choose different friends? Would you say different words? Would you order tea instead of coffee? Or would the exact same sequence happen again? If every condition is identical, it seems difficult to explain why a different result would occur. After all, your decision is not floating outside reality. Your brain is part of reality. Your brain has physical properties. Neurons communicate through electrical and chemical processes. Those processes depend on previous physical conditions. Your memories came from earlier experiences. Your personality was shaped by genetics, development, family, culture, accidents, rewards, punishments, relationships, and countless events you never selected. Even your body influences your mind. Being tired changes your patience. Being hungry changes your mood. Hormones affect behavior. Illness can alter personality. Brain injuries can transform someone's emotions and decision-making. A drug can change what you want. A lack of sleep can make you impulsive. If physical changes can alter the person making the decision, then the decision maker seems deeply connected to the physical machinery of the brain. This leads to one of the oldest philosophical problems. If everything that happens has a cause, where does free will fit? The two doors. Imagine that you are standing in a hallway. There are two doors, door A, door B. You are told you may choose either one. You think, you hesitate, then you choose door A. Now ask a strange question. Why did you choose door A? Perhaps because you like the color. Why did you like the color? Because of your personal preferences. Why do you have those preferences? Because of your experiences, biology, thy memories, and personality. Why did you have those experiences? Because of the circumstances of your life. Why did those circumstances happen? Because of an enormous chain of events stretching backward through time. At some point, you may reach a point where the explanation becomes, because that is simply what I wanted. But then the problem returns. Why did you want what you wanted? You did not choose your original preferences. You did not choose your genes. You did not choose your childhood. You did not choose the culture into which you were born. You did not choose the first language you learned. You did not choose many of the experiences that shaped your fears and desires. And you certainly did not choose to exist in the first place. So when you make a decision, you are choosing according to a mind that you did not completely design. This creates a strange paradox. You may be free to do what you want, but you did not choose what you want. And if you did not choose what you want, in what sense did you freely choose? The problem gets worse. Imagine two people named Daniel and Marcus. Both commit the same crime. Daniel grew up in a loving home. He received support, education, stability, and affection. He understood that what he was doing was wrong. Marcus grew up in extreme violence. He was abused from childhood, surrounded by crime, and taught that aggression was the only reliable way to survive. Both make the same decision. Should society treat them identically? Most people would say no. Why? Because we instinctively understand that circumstances matter. We already recognize that a person is not an isolated mind making choices in a vacuum. We consider childhood. We consider mental state. We consider coercion. We consider brain development. We consider addiction. We consider social pressure. We consider trauma. In other words, we already behave as though human choices have causes. But then something uncomfortable happens. If we keep tracing those causes backward, eventually we reach factors the person never chose: their genes, their childhood, their environment, their brain, their experiences, their opportunities, their limitations, the people who influenced them, the accidents that happened to them, the world they were born into. At what point does personal responsibility begin? There is no universally accepted answer. And perhaps that is because the question contains two different ideas that we often mix together. One is, did you cause the action? The other is, were you ultimately responsible for being the kind of person who caused it? Those are not necessarily the same question. The brain makes a decision before you know it. One reason the free will debate became so famous in modern times came from experiments involving brain activity. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted experiments in which people were asked to make simple voluntary movements, such as moving a finger whenever they felt like it. The participants were asked to pay attention to the moment when they became consciously aware of deciding to move. Researchers found that certain brain activity associated with the movement appeared before the participants reported becoming consciously aware of their intention. This result became extremely controversial. Some people interpreted it as evidence that the brain decides before consciousness does. That sounds devastating for free will, but the reality is more complicated. The experiments involved very simple movements, such as spontaneous finger movements. That is very different from deciding whether to marry someone, change careers, confess a secret, or spend 10 years studying medicine. There are also questions about how accurately people can report the precise moment when a conscious intention appears. Later research produced more nuanced results, and scientists continue to debate what these experiments actually show. So it would be wrong to say science proved that free will does not exist. It did not. What the experiments did reveal is something more subtle. Conscious awareness may not be the first step in every decision. Some of the processes leading toward an action may begin before we consciously experience the decision. That is enough to make us uncomfortable, but it is not enough to settle the philosophical question. What if consciousness is the narrator? Now imagine that consciousness works differently from how we usually picture it. Instead of being the CEO of the brain, perhaps consciousness is more like a narrator. A narrator watches events unfold and explains them. You walk into a room. Your brain recognizes a familiar face. You feel happy. You think, "I'm happy to see her." That explanation may be completely accurate, but perhaps the conscious explanation came after many unconscious processes had already produced the emotional response. The brain recognized the face, memories activated, emotional systems responded, your body changed. Then consciousness experienced the result and constructed a story. I am happy because I like this person. The story may be true, but the narrator did not necessarily create the event. This idea appears in different forms across psychology and philosophy. Humans are extremely good at constructing explanations for their own behavior. Sometimes we know why we acted. Sometimes we guess. And sometimes we may confidently give an explanation that is incomplete or even wrong. This is one reason the mind is so strange. We can observe other people's behavior from the outside, but when it comes to ourselves, we experience the behavior from inside. That creates a powerful illusion of authorship. You do not see the thousands of tiny processes that lead to your next decision. You simply experience, "I decided." But determinism has a problem too. At this point, it may seem obvious. If everything has a cause, free will must be impossible. But there is a major problem. What exactly does "everything has a cause" mean? Some versions of physics describe the universe in ways that are not perfectly predictable. Quantum mechanics introduces genuine uncertainty into our best description of nature. At very small scales, events can only be described in terms of probabilities. That sounds like good news for free will. Maybe the universe is not deterministic. Maybe there is room for freedom. But there is an immediate problem. Randomness is not the same thing as free will. Suppose you are deciding whether to eat pizza or pasta. Instead of your brain deterministically producing one answer, imagine that a quantum event randomly changes the activity of a neuron. As a result, you choose pasta. Did you freely choose pasta, or did randomness choose for you? If your decision is completely determined by prior causes, it may seem like you are not free. If your decision is partly random, it is not obvious that you are any more free. This creates a strange middle ground. Determinism seems to threaten freedom because you could not have done otherwise. Randomness seems to threaten freedom because the decision is not fully under your control. So perhaps neither one gives us the kind of free will we instinctively imagine. Maybe we have been asking the wrong question. There is another possibility. Maybe free will does not require some magical power to escape causality. Maybe being free means something much more ordinary. Consider two people. One person is forced to hand over money because someone is threatening them with a weapon. The other person willingly gives money to a friend because they want to help. Both actions have causes. Both actions involve brains. Both actions obey the laws of nature. Yet we naturally describe the second person as acting freely. Why? Because the action came from the person's own desires rather than direct external coercion. This idea is sometimes called compatibilism. The basic argument is simple. Maybe free will and a determined universe are not necessarily enemies. You do not need to be an uncaused soul floating outside physics. You simply need your actions to come from the kind of person you are, your reasons, desires, values, and decisions, rather than from someone physically forcing you. Under this view, your brain causing your decision does not destroy your freedom. Your brain is part of you. If you decide to go for a walk because you want exercise, that decision can be completely caused by your desires and still count as free. The fact that your desire has a history does not necessarily make it meaningless. After all, what would a desire without a cause even look like? If you suddenly wanted something for absolutely no reason, would that make the desire more truly yours? Probably not. It might simply make it random. The strange case of changing your mind. There is an important clue hiding in ordinary life. You can change. Suppose you are an impatient person. Someone insults you. Your first impulse is to insult them back. But you stop. You breathe. You remember that you promised yourself you would stop reacting so quickly. You choose not to respond. Did you exercise free will? A strict version of determinism might say that even your self-control had causes. Perhaps your previous experiences changed your brain. Perhaps the promise you made influenced your behavior. Perhaps the pause allowed another neural process to overcome the first impulse. None of this necessarily makes the change meaningless, because the ability to reflect on yourself is itself part of human behavior. You can influence tomorrow's version of yourself. You can build habits. You can expose yourself to new ideas. You can choose your environment. You can practice patience. You can decide to avoid certain situations. You can ask other people to hold you accountable. Even if those choices have causes, they can become causes of future choices. This gives us a more complicated picture of freedom. Perhaps freedom is not the ability to stand outside the chain of cause and effect. Perhaps freedom is the ability to become one of the causes inside it. You cannot choose your starting point. Think about a video game. Before you begin playing, the game gives your character certain abilities. Maybe you start with little strength but high intelligence. Maybe you begin with a particular weapon. Maybe the world around you is hostile. Maybe the difficulty level is extremely high. You did not choose the starting conditions. But once the game begins, your decisions still affect what happens next. Human life is obviously much more complicated than a video game, but the analogy reveals something important. We may not choose our starting conditions, yet our actions can still influence the future. You cannot choose the family you were born into, but you can influence the family you create. You cannot choose your childhood, but you can influence what you do with what happened to you. You cannot choose your natural talents, but you can decide how to develop them. You cannot control every thought that enters your mind, but you can sometimes decide which thoughts deserve your attention. This may not be absolute freedom, but perhaps absolute freedom was never the kind of freedom that mattered. Tash, if free will is an illusion, should we stop blaming people? Now we reach the most uncomfortable consequence. Suppose tomorrow scientists somehow prove that human behavior is completely determined. No genuine free will, no ultimate authorship. Every decision follows inevitably from prior conditions. Would murderers stop being dangerous? No. Would laws become unnecessary? No. Would prisons suddenly have no purpose? Not necessarily. The purpose of punishment could change. If a dangerous person commits violence, society may still need to protect itself. But perhaps the emotional desire for revenge would become harder to justify. Imagine discovering that a violent criminal's personality was shaped by genetics, abuse, neglect, poverty, brain development, and countless experiences that were never chosen. You might still believe the person must be stopped, but you might feel less hatred. The distinction is important. Protection is not the same as revenge. If someone has a dangerous disease, we may isolate or treat them without believing they are morally evil for having the disease. A similar idea could influence how we think about harmful behavior. This does not mean saying nobody is responsible, so nothing matters. It means asking a different question. What response produces the best future? Sometimes that means punishment, sometimes rehabilitation, sometimes separation from society, sometimes forgiveness, sometimes all of them in different proportions. The belief in free will has traditionally played an important role in our ideas about justice, but we might discover that society can preserve responsibility without believing people are ultimately self-created. What happens to guilt? Now turn the question inward. Suppose you regret something you did 5 years ago. You think, if only I had chosen differently. That sentence contains an assumption. It assumes that the person you were had access to another possible choice. But perhaps the person you were could only make the decision they made, given what they knew, what they wanted, what they feared, and what they had experienced. Does that mean regret is pointless? Not necessarily. Regret can still teach you. The useful question becomes less, how could I have magically become someone else? And more, what can I learn from the person I was? Imagine a driver who crashes because they were careless. They cannot go back in time, but they can become more careful afterward. The accident becomes a cause of future behavior. In this sense, regret can remain useful even if ultimate free will does not exist. You do not need to believe that the past could have been different to allow the past to change the future. That may be one of the strangest ideas in the entire debate. The past may be fixed while still being capable of changing you. And what happens to pride? There is another side to this. If you are not ultimately responsible for your failures, perhaps you are not ultimately responsible for your successes either. You worked hard, you built something, you helped someone, you became successful. You might think, I did this. But consider everything that helped you get there. Your intelligence, your health, your family, your teachers, your opportunities, your culture, the people who encouraged you, the people who challenged you, the accidents that led you toward important opportunities, the biological traits you were born with. Even your ability to work hard may itself have roots in temperament and upbringing. This does not mean achievement becomes meaningless, but it can make pride softer. You can be proud without believing you created yourself from nothing. You can appreciate what you accomplished while recognizing how much of your life was given to you. And that realization can produce something surprisingly powerful, gratitude. Perhaps the opposite of absolute free will is not despair. Perhaps it is humility. The person you hate may also be a product of causes. This becomes especially powerful when applied to other people. Think about someone you strongly dislike. Maybe they are arrogant, maybe they betrayed you, maybe they are cruel. Your natural reaction is they chose to be that way. But imagine being given a complete record of their life, every childhood experience, every fear, every humiliation, every genetic tendency, every moment that shaped their personality, every opportunity they received, every opportunity they were denied, every influence they encountered, every decision that gradually transformed them into the person you now dislike. Would you still condemn them? Perhaps, but your judgment might become more complicated. Understanding causes does not require approval. You can understand why someone behaves badly and still refuse to tolerate the behavior. But understanding can reduce the temptation to imagine that people simply emerge from nowhere as good or evil. Human beings are historical creatures. We carry our past inside us, and then we become part of someone else's past. The dangerous misunderstanding. There is, however, a serious danger in taking the illusion idea too far. Someone might hear all of this and conclude, if I have no free will, then I can do whatever I want. That does not follow. Your actions still have consequences. If you stop eating, your body changes. If you insult people, relationships change. If you study, your knowledge changes. If you practice an instrument, your abilities change. If you hurt someone, their life changes. If you break the law, society responds. Whether or not free will exists, behavior matters. In fact, if determinism is true, consequences may matter even more. Why? Because consequences are part of the chain of causes. If someone knows that stealing leads to punishment, that knowledge can influence future behavior. If therapy changes a person's habits, therapy becomes part of the causal process. If education changes a child's opportunities, education becomes part of the causal process. If kindness causes someone to become kinder, kindness becomes part of the chain. A determined world would not be a world where nothing matters. It would be a world where everything that happens becomes part of what causes what happens next. That is a very different idea. Maybe the self is not what we think. There is an even deeper problem hiding underneath free will. What exactly is the self that supposedly possesses free will? You probably feel like there is a single person inside your head. The same you who was a child, the same you who went to school, the same you who made mistakes last year, the same you who is reading these words. But your body has changed, your beliefs have changed, your memories have changed, your personality may have changed, your goals have changed. Even the cells and molecules making up your body are constantly being replaced or altered. So what makes you the same person? Maybe it is your memories, but memories can be distorted. Maybe it is your personality, but personality changes. Maybe it is your body, but the body changes too. Maybe there is a deeper self underneath all of these things. Some philosophical and religious traditions have argued exactly that. Others have suggested that there is no permanent inner self at all. Perhaps what we call you is more like a continuously changing pattern, a story that maintains enough continuity to feel like one person. If that is true, then the question who chose becomes stranger. Maybe there is no tiny inner person making decisions. Maybe there is only the whole system, brain, body, memories, environment, emotions, habits, and awareness, producing behavior. The self is not the operator. The self may be the process. The universe does not need you to be an illusion for life to matter. There is a temptation to think that if free will is not absolute, then life becomes meaningless. But consider another example. Imagine that you are watching a movie. You know the movie has already been recorded. The characters cannot change the ending. Does that mean the story has no emotional meaning? Of course not. You can still love the characters, you can still cry, you can still be surprised, you can still learn something. Human life is not a movie, but the comparison reveals an important point. Meaning does not necessarily require infinite alternatives. A song does not become meaningless because every note follows the previous note. A conversation does not become meaningless because your words are influenced by your memories and personality. A sunset does not become meaningless because you did not create the laws of physics that produced it. Something can be caused and still be valuable. Something can be inevitable and still be beautiful. Something can be temporary and still matter deeply. Perhaps the mistake is assuming that meaning requires metaphysical independence from the universe. Maybe it does not. What if you could know your future? Now imagine something even stranger. Suppose a machine could predict your decisions with perfect accuracy. Tomorrow at 3:17 p.m. it tells you, you will call your brother. You become determined to prove the machine wrong. You decide, I will not call him. But then you discover that your attempt to disprove the prediction was itself included in the prediction. The machine already knew you would resist, so you try something else. You decide to do the opposite, but the machine predicted that too. This thought experiment reveals a strange possibility. Maybe our feeling of freedom does not require unpredictability. You might still experience yourself as choosing even if someone else could predict your choice. After all, you do not normally know your own future decisions. From your perspective, the future feels open, and that feeling may be important. You experience possibilities. You consider alternatives. You imagine consequences. You hesitate. You decide. Even if the entire process is ultimately determined, the process itself is real. You are not standing outside causality watching your brain work. You are the brain, the body, the memories, the emotions, and the reasoning process. So perhaps asking whether you are free from causality is like asking whether a river is free from gravity. The river cannot escape gravity, but the river still flows. To see the problem clearly, imagine three possible universes. Universe 1, everything is determined. Every event follows inevitably from previous conditions. Your decisions are caused by your brain, your environment, and everything that came before. There is no ultimate ability to choose differently under exactly the same conditions. This would challenge traditional free will, but you could still reason, learn, reflect, and change. Your reasoning would simply be part of the causal structure of the universe. Universe 2, everything is random. Suppose decisions contain genuine randomness. Sometimes your brain produces one choice, sometimes another. You cannot predict which one will happen. Would that give you freedom? Not necessarily. A random decision does not automatically become an intentional decision. Randomness gives unpredictability. It does not automatically give authorship. Universe 3. You have some special power beyond physical causation. Perhaps there is a deeper form of consciousness capable of making genuinely independent choices. This is closer to the traditional idea many people have of free will. But now a difficult question appears. How does this mysterious freedom interact with the physical brain? If your free choice changes what your neurons do, how does something outside the ordinary chain of physical events affect matter? If it does not affect your brain, how does it affect your behavior? This is a real philosophical problem, and there is no universally accepted solution. So all three possibilities have difficulties. Perhaps that is why the free will debate has survived for thousands of years. The real mystery may be consciousness. There is another possibility that changes the entire conversation. Maybe the deepest mystery is not free will. Maybe it is consciousness itself. We still do not have a complete explanation for why physical processes in the brain are accompanied by subjective experience. You can describe electrical activity, you can study neurons, you can measure brain regions, you can observe behavior. But there remains a strange question. Why does any of this feel like something? Why is there an inner world? Why does pain hurt? Why does red look red? Why does music move us? Why is there a first-person perspective at all? Until we understand consciousness better, the question of free will may remain partly hidden behind a larger mystery. Perhaps consciousness is more powerful than we currently understand. Perhaps it is less powerful than we imagine. Perhaps it is a property that emerges naturally from sufficiently complex brains. Perhaps our idea of a separate inner self is fundamentally mistaken. We do not know, and this is where intellectual humility becomes important. It is easy to turn an interesting scientific result into a grand philosophical conclusion, but science has not established that humans definitely have no free will, nor has it established that we possess some mysterious supernatural freedom. The honest answer is more uncomfortable. We do not fully understand what a choice is. So, do you have free will? The answer depends on what you mean by free will. If you mean, can I make a decision that is completely independent of every prior cause, including my brain, biology, history, and environment? There is no clear evidence that humans possess such a power. If you mean, can I think about reasons, consider alternatives, act according to my values, resist impulses, learn from experience, and influence what happens next? Then yes. Yes, that kind of freedom clearly exists in ordinary human life. The problem is that we often use the same word, freedom, for both ideas. The first is almost magical, the second is practical, and perhaps the second is the only kind of freedom we ever actually needed. You do not need to be the ultimate creator of yourself to be capable of reflection. You do not need to exist outside causality to change. You do not need to have chosen your desires in order for your desires to matter. You do not need to control the entire universe to influence the next moment. The most unsettling possibility. There is one final possibility worth considering. What if free will is partly an illusion, but the illusion itself is useful? Imagine a human being who truly believed, nothing I do matters, everything is already determined. That belief could change their behavior. They might stop trying, they might stop learning, they might stop taking responsibility, they might stop caring about the future, but that very belief would then become one of the causes shaping their future behavior. In other words, believing that your choices do not matter can itself matter. This creates a beautiful paradox. Perhaps you do not need absolute free will to live as though your choices matter. Because your choices, whatever their ultimate metaphysical status, really do affect what comes next. You decide to read a book. The book changes an idea. The idea changes a decision. The decision changes a relationship. The relationship changes another person's life. That person changes someone else's life, and the chain continues. You may not be the first cause, you may not be the ultimate cause, but you can still be a cause. That distinction may be enough. The coffee was never just about coffee. Go back to the coffee shop. You are standing at the counter. Coffee or tea. You think, you remember yesterday. You consider your health. You notice the smell of coffee. You remember a conversation with a friend. You feel tired. You choose coffee. Maybe your brain began preparing that decision before you consciously noticed it. Maybe your childhood influenced your preferences. Maybe your genes influenced your temperament. Maybe the universe itself made the outcome inevitable. Or maybe there's some form of genuine freedom we do not yet understand. We do not know. But there is something else we do know. The decision happened through you. Your memories mattered. Your reasoning mattered. Your desires mattered. Your experiences mattered. Your brain mattered. The choice did not appear from nowhere. It emerged from the strange, complicated history that became the person standing at the counter. Perhaps that is what we have been missing. We imagine freedom means being completely independent from everything that caused us. But maybe that kind of freedom would be impossible and perhaps even meaningless. Because if you removed your memories, your personality, your desires, your values, your body, and your history, what would be left to make the choice? Nothing. The things that seem to threaten our freedom may actually be the things that make a choice ours. Your history shapes you. Your brain shapes you. Your environment shapes you. Other people shape you. And then through you, those causes move forward into the future. Maybe you are not an uncaused author standing outside the universe. Maybe you are something stranger, a living process inside the universe that can remember the past, imagine the future, reflect on itself, and become part of the chain that determines what happens next. That may not be absolute freedom, but it is not nothing. And perhaps the deepest question is not whether you could have chosen differently under exactly the same circumstances. Perhaps the deeper question is this: what kind of person are you becoming through the choices that happen through you? Because whether free will is real, partly real, or an illusion, tomorrow will still arrive. Your thoughts will still appear. Your decisions will still shape other people. Your actions will still create consequences. And somewhere inside that strange process, you will still experience the most remarkable feeling a human being can have. The feeling that you are here, that this life is yours, and that the next moment is waiting for you to meet it.